I just wanted to talk real shortly on defending the concept of dehumanization. I fear that sometimes people are very against the concept of dehumanizing an opponent because how often it's misused. But that's a lot like being against any tool for being misused, honestly. It's either considered that or unfair. Now, unfairness is just a fact of the current political discussion that we have. Everything's unfair. We got people out here rioting, killing, murdering people, burning down hundreds of millions of dollars worth of businesses, ruining American lives. We have governments completely stripping people of constitutional rights. We have governments not letting people work, ruining lives by the millions. We have a political party that has endorsed the most extremist, murderous, and violent, the most morally bankrupt and utterly corrupt political process out there, progressivism. And when faced with all that, we're still going to sit there and go, well, they dehumanized us and we're not going to act like them. The problem with the left dehumanizing normal people, it's wrong to even say they dehumanize the right because that's far from the only people they dehumanize. They dehumanize anybody who resists them. The problem is, look at who they are dehumanizing. Look at the people who just don't want their kids exposed to homosexual and transsexual and degenerate propaganda. I've always been a liberal about that shit. You want to cross-dress, you want to be gay, you want to be, I mean, even shit that's particularly destructive, beyond even the shit that people normally complain about, like homosexuality or weird kinks and shit. What's really destructive is polyamory, bigamy. That's extremely destructive. But I still think you're allowed to do all that shit as a free citizen in your own home. But to push it onto people, especially impressionable kids, there's a reason why the Democrats want 16-year-olds to vote, because they're easily manipulated. There's a reason why they want to push sexual education into kindergartens, because these kids are easily manipulated. They know that they can't manipulate rational adults, and that's the people who's facing them. So if the enemy is rational, regular, decent adults, and you're dehumanizing those people, that's clearly wrong and reprehensible. But who am I demoralizing? Violent criminals, gangbangers, murderers, rapists, child abusers, molesters. I'm dehumanizing people who want to steal everything you own so that they can be freeloaders. I'm dehumanizing people who want to take away your civil rights. So if I'm sitting here saying this progressive leftist, this Democrat is a subhuman animal monster, some of them are guilty of crimes which under the fucking penal code you actually either execute or imprison or exile these people. One of the three. Three things that, everybody says is so horrible. Exiling people is horrible. The death penalty is horrible. I'm personally against the death penalty. I'm just saying that supposedly we live in a country where when people do the horrible, evil shit that these people are doing, we convict them in a court of law and then execute them judicially. So it sounds like Nazi rhetoric, but there's a reason why some of the earliest shit I did against the left on this channel way back in 2014 and 2015, what was I saying? I was saying these people have co-opted and corrupted the language. We can't communicate. In fact, the chief goal of critical theory, of Marxism, of all that same shit that we all call the same thing, it's just progressive leftists, it's just critical theorists, they're all the same thing. Communist, Marxist, socialist, democratic socialists, the current Democrat left, the alt-left, far-left, critical theorists, they're all the same people. The first thing they want to do is, first of all, destroy your value system. Nothing is truly valuable but what a progressive leftist says is valuable. And whatever they say is valuable has no standard whatsoever. It's whatever is convenient. This is the definition of an evil person, that everything is according to a selfish whim, and their selfish whims are usually sadistic and violent. They usually involve theft, murder, abuse, or suppression, oppression. It's hilarious to say, oh, these people are the real Nazis. The Nazis are not and never were as bad as these people. The only thing that stops these people from being compared to Nazis is just a death toll that they're currently working on. They are far worse in rhetoric. They are far worse in goal-oriented behavior, what they were trying to achieve. Chaos, destruction, and murder. The burn, loot, murder meme is pretty fucking accurate. Why would I dehumanize these people? Why would I stress to these people that they're not worthy of a place at the seat of discussion? What they have to say is so utterly without value, so less than worthless, so completely despicable and destructive. Why would I afford these people any kind of generosity or benefit of the doubt? And no, I'm not just as bad as them if I use one rhetorical tactic that they use. And the reason why I'm better than them is because I'm telling the truth and they're lying. And that's not just a flippant statement. Everybody but progressive leftists know that all progressives do is lie. The reason why Donald Trump is going to utterly destroy them in the election, that there's going to be a massive fucking red wave, is because it's not just the lies, but once they are in a position to continuously tell these lies, and we see the result of these lies on the behavior of the public, we find out that actually propaganda is an extremely powerful weapon. And propaganda isn't always lies. The definition of propaganda is simply persuading a mass public to your point of view. And sometimes you use less than just reasoned debate and smarty pants and citations and shit. Sometimes you just can present an emotional argument to somebody. But is an emotional argument automatically fallacious? Is it automatically wrong? If you're telling the truth but speaking in a language that common people can understand, that they're not required to sit down for a 90-minute debate, that they're not required to be learned on a subject, if you can break something down, brevity is the soul of wit. A lot of the philosophers throughout time that everybody really admires and remembers is not the scholars and the Bertrand Russells and shit of history. People remember the Oscar Wildes and Mark Twains. Because when Mark Twain sits down and says, if you make a starving dog prosperous, he will not bite you. That is the principal difference between a dog and a man. In a scientific sense, that's absurd. Dogs are quadrupedal, they have completely different shaped skulls. All the fucking morphological differences between a dog and a man is tremendous. The evolutionary lineage where we broke off from dogs and shit predates primates and shit like this. Why would you say that the principal difference between a dog and a man is that dogs do not betray people as a matter of course? That dogs do not turn on the people who uplift them and attempt to kill them? Why would we say that that is the principal difference between a dog and a man? It is to say that a dog, which is obviously something that is less than a man, is capable of greater moral function than a man in very specific and very important ways. So if I say a progressive is less than a dog because a progressive is incapable of the moral character that a dog is, then yeah, I'm dehumanizing a progressive. Does that make sense? Think about these kind of things.